What's up, guys? Welcome to Cat Attacks Life. A brand new episode is in your ears right now. It's me, Cat, your host with the mostest. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you, and I am on Spotify. Um, if you're on YouTube, thank you. Again, follow me on Instagram, katmugot, KATMUGOT. That is my name. Keep up with me and the conversation, and let me know how and what you think of this podcast. So let's get in it. Let's get in it, mate. Straight into it. I have a lot of things to say. Welcome to the new year. Welcome to 2023. We're settling now. It is February as I record this. And I feel like the wheels are turning. I feel like we're finally getting our motivation to keep something going or to keep something up. If you have resolutions and you've been doing really well on them, it's like you're going to keep going. At least that's how I feel about it. I've been doing really well too. So I hope it's the same for you guys. I know some of my friends have been hitting the gym consistently, which I'm very proud of. Love you all if you're listening. Shout outs to you. Kudos to you. Keep going. Never stop. Pogehajimasu, which means don't give up in Korean. So yeah, I usually record something like this when I have something to say. And girl, do I have... I have something to say. Yeah, I have a lot of things to say today. It's been a very efficient learning curve, learning experience for me in the last few months. And as you know, I'm a very spiritual person. This podcast covers life and in every single aspect of it, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. I'm all about it. If that's your jam, keep listening. One of the things that has really sparked me recently is this. It's okay. So the title of this podcast is Choosing Yourself in 2023. Choosing yourself. What does that mean? We'll get into context. What does that mean, choosing yourself? Of course, you can say loving yourself, being yourself, taking no shit. All of that is correct. All of those are appropriate answers. But to go deeper into what that means, we're going to hit all these different layers. Choosing yourself, being unapologetic, just doing whatever you want to do, and not caring. If you're shy and you want to record something in public, just do it. Who's gonna care? No one's gonna care. So first thing I wanted to cover is boundaries, setting boundaries. But I think boundaries is such a buzz phrase now. It's like, oh, we're going to talk about setting boundaries. And that's not a bad conversation to have. I'm just saying it is, since now it's like in everyone's conscious, and maybe you'll see it on TikTok or Instagram. We're going to talk about boundaries. What does that mean? How do you know where to set them? How do you know who to set them with? How do you know if it's been crossed already? I will say that if you are uncertain of aspects of yourself, it's going to be more difficult to set boundaries. But that is the perfect time, if you're aware, to set them. Because if you know you're uncomfortable in a situation or with people or specific energies, just see your way out. Just leave already. You're not supposed to be involved in it, because your body knows. I think your body knows more than your mind will sometimes. And it will tell you. That gut feeling is there for a reason. It's talking to you. You better listen. That's your intuition. And if you don't trust your intuition, you're not going to get far with knowing yourself, So boundaries, I think that with that in mind, and everyone is coming to a little bit, it's very important to know when to say no. I've had this problem for a minute of like trying to people please and trying to make sure the situation and other people were good. And that stems from, my childhood growing up and how it was kind of unpredictable. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And it bled into my work relationship or it bled into my intimate relationships and the people that I knew, and just me feeling uncomfortable. Like, there's certain times where I really do not want to do anything. There are certain times where even if everyone is there at the party, I don't want to go to that fucking party. And there have been times when I was like younger that I just said yes because like it kept the peace. But I didn't feel at peace, So let's backtrack a little bit. Context. Um, there is this attachment style theory. Then there's a secure, insecure, and avoidant, right? There's one other layer to that. It's called the fawn response. And if you grew up with a fawn response, this is going to make so much sense for you. So the fawn response basically means that you grew up in an individual who grew up in an environment that was very unpredictable. And that meant unpredictable parents, unpredictable situations. Maybe you moved a lot. Maybe you didn't have a stable uh, a stable way of being, or maybe you went to different schools all the time. Maybe you moved to different countries, like I did. Um, Maybe you moved from different houses, cities, whatever. It wasn't stable. It didn't feel like you could uh, create yourself easily. Maybe you, with that in mind, like you'll always make different friends. You'll always have different classes you're going to. You didn't know a lot of people. You didn't have a lot of friends, so you felt outcasted originally. So the fawn response means that you grew up trying to make sure that everyone else was fine, that the environment was okay, and you said something wrong, you needed to adjust yourself to fix it. You are a people pleaser. You tried to make sure the people around you were good before you were good. So if you fit into that category, sorry, then this is going to make a lot of sense. Setting boundaries is very important. I'm learning this recently into the last year into this year. It's something that I'm still having to practice. And of course, it's not going to be 100% you know how to set these boundaries. It's always going to be depending on the circumstance, depending on the people. And like I said, like it can be difficult, right? For example, you get invited to a party. Your friend's been working really hard to throw this party. And of course, you don't want to miss it. Of course, it's something that you want to support your friend through. Or maybe, you want to see a lot of people that you know. In the same time, in the same day that party's happening, you are fucking exhausted. Like, work took a toll. Work kicked your ass. You are not here mentally. It's time for you to go home and just stay in your pajamas and eat some food and go to bed. What do you do? What would you do in that situation? Personally, I would compromise with myself. I wouldn't be so closed off to the idea of going. Now that I'm exhausted, it's like, well, I can go there for a couple hours. And your friend's like, no, please stay. You're you have one of those friends who are just like making you feel guilty because you're exhausted. Not that not that they're doing that on purpose, right? But it's like, no, please stay. And you get there and you're just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do. What would you do? Your boundary is saying it's time for you to go. You're not going to drink tonight. You're exhausted. Why would you want to risk that, right? You have to set that boundary for your friend, to your friend, and be like, homie, I love you. Homie, you're my number one. Believe me, trust. But right now, in this moment, in this space, in my mind, I have to go home. And I have to decompress because all of this is not helping. And your friend, who is going to be hopefully very understanding, is gonna be like, all right, well, let me know when you get home, and I'll catch up with you some other time next week. That's appropriate. That's called setting your boundary. If you had felt uncomfortable doing that beforehand, or maybe there's something in you that was like giving you a lot of anxiety because you don't want your friend to be disappointed in you, you you have issues setting boundaries. I get it. I would be uncomfortable too. I would be like, man, I don't want to upset her. I don't want to upset them. Like, they're just trying to have a good time and I wanted to support them, but I can't right now. I don't have the capacity to. Your boundary is putting your foot down with yourself and be like, you have to go home. This is not you. You're not you and you're hungry. You know what I mean? So all of that is a very small example in my opinion. It gets really deep with romantic relationships. Like, no, I don't want to do this. No, this triggers me. Like, this is what I'm afraid of, and this is how I am as a person. Context, side note, if you're having that conversation with a romantic partner and it's early on to the relationship, great for you. I actually support that. Actually, you put everything on the table. When you're exclusive with one person, you better have the entire conversation on the table, because then that time, if the person is not with it, you can also not be with it and leave. I think it's just that easy. Is that just me? Like, if you're setting your boundaries and it's clear that something like this is not good for you, and the other person is like, no, but let's compromise with that. If you have any kind of inkling to go, trust it. If that is a red flag. If someone doesn't respect your boundaries, they're not gonna respect you as a person. Period. Period. Okay. So that's what I mean. It gets bigger with different situations. Setting your boundaries at work is also very important, and making sure that you're not overworking for a company that is trying to just wring you out, like exhaust you. I've worked for a company like that before, and trust me, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's not good. Even if I try to put my foot down, there's no budging. And that point, it's time to remove yourself. It's okay to remove yourself. If something starts that you wanted to be a part of, it didn't happen the way that you wanted to, you can remove yourself. Okay? You guys are always allowed to leave a situation if it does not make you feel comfortable, if it does not benefit you, if it does not help you grow as a person, and it's actually like draining you, and it's actually like anchoring you. You need to be able to say no to that. You need to be able to be like, I can find something better. I can find something that's worth me. That's what choosing yourself means. And this entire theme of this podcast is going to cover that. So, choosing yourself, boundaries. Okay, we've covered that. I have a document open up on my computer right now that I'm staring at with all these things that I wanted to bring up. The next thing is detachment. Detachment. I watched something this morning on detachment, and the person in the video was basically saying that, you have to differentiate, you have to dictate what is good for you, and what's efficient. What's good, what's bad, and what's efficient for you. What are you too attached to? How are you attuned to yourself that you can assess these things? It's a lot of big words. How are you tuned in with yourself that you can consciously decide what to detach from, right? We know what's good for us. We know what's bad for us. We know what we like and what we dislike. If you're attached to something that is bad for you, but you like it, there needs to be a conversation. There needs to be a little bit more awareness within that, and as to why you're still there. Am I right? So detaching is something that I'm practicing because I'm a highly sensitive person. Like, I didn't want to admit that to anybody for the longest time, but here I am out in the open. I'm very sensitive, right? I take on a lot of different energies sometimes. I'm an empathic person, so like feeling and sensation is very sensitive to me. If someone's feeling down and like they're talking to me about it, sometimes I take on those emotions, but I don't want to. Here's the thing. As an empath, I try not to, okay? Because I can always understand where they're coming from. But for me, detaching is my power, is my responsibility, because I don't want to carry that with me. I don't want that to embed itself into how I'm feeling. It's not the point of being empathic. It's about understanding where the person's coming from, right? So detachment is important. I also think that if you're too up in the clouds and you're thinking so much, or maybe you're overthinking, maybe that's a coping mechanism. I know I find myself like spacing out and zoning out when I'm in big groups, because that's just the way I protect myself, that I'm not really present, which I don't want to be. I don't want to be not present, So I detach myself as best as I can, and try to focus on what's in front of me. Take a breath in, take a breath out. And that space and time is something that's saved me time and time again. So what are we in need of to detach from? Again, you have to know what's good for you, what's beneficial, what's efficient, what can drive you into something better versus the things that, you're attached in a bad way. Attached where you're comfortable now. Choosing yourself is not comfortable. Choosing yourself is not comfortable, especially when you've learned to try to please other people, especially when you've been conditioned as a child to choose to be the greater good for other people as opposed to being the greater good for yourself. Now, now I choose to come from a space that only comes from the root of me. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. If I do not want to do something, I am not going to do that. It's easier said than done, because I always find myself trying to accommodate to the other person or people. But if I'm not comfortable doing so, that's my responsibility to check in with myself. That's my responsibility to be like, no, I am not going to do that. Or yes, I am going to do that. So it all works together. Your boundaries, detachment, the way that you have to detach from your own emotions sometimes and consider it an entity as opposed to like an end all be all. Like when I get into a mood, if I feel moody, sometimes I kind of I sit in it for a while and other people can feel it, but that's what I have to do. I have to process it. Other times, like you'll notice people project that, if that makes sense. Like if someone's in a mood, they're going to project it. If someone's feeling angry, they're going to project it. And detaching from your own emotions can really help you sometimes, because it takes away the power of, like, if you're really really upset or if you're really really sad, of course process them. I'm not saying to just put them to the side. I'm saying process them accordingly, because emotions are like this. They could just fly away. I have my hands out in front of me. Emotions are like this thing that you hold. You take consideration of what it is and what it's doing, but then you let it go. Eventually, you're not going to feel that way, and you let it do its thing. That's what I mean. Don't hold on to these feelings as if the emotion is going to change if you project it. It doesn't work like that. I hate people who project. First of all, side note, you can really tell. I can really read someone who chooses to be angry and upset or commenting negative things. I can really read someone when they have the space and time to comment and post on whatever, something really dumb and negative. You can tell that the person has, one, too much time to themselves, two, no sense of self-worth, and three, are very insecure. So that's what they try to do, is make them feel like how they feel. Is make people feel the way that they feel, if that makes any sense. No, I don't tolerate things like that. I hate that. Oh, I don't get me started on people who project. Um, anyways, back to the topic. So, setting boundaries, attachment, sensitivity. I feel like if you're like me, who takes on a lot of different energies, you like being alone. You like being alone. I love being alone. Look at me. Look at me right now. I get to speak to myself in this microphone and just revel in it, like live in it. This is my favorite thing. This is my favorite thing. Not I don't mean recording, but like just being by myself and having this freedom to choose whatever the fuck I want to do. This space is so important to me. So if you are highly sensitive, I know you feel the same way, right? Arm's reach. Keep me at arm's reach. My love language is space. Apart. Give me the space, the freedom to be myself, and I will love you for a long time, because that's exactly what I need. I am not a fan of speaking to someone 24/7 I'm not a fan of, having to go somewhere 24/7. I love keeping place in my house with my cats. Okay? That's just who I am. That's just how I vibe. That's how I create. That just clears a lot of space for me to create like this. So, yeah, being highly sensitive can have its really awesome perks and can have its times of revelation. I think it's very powerful. I think a lot of people who find solitude uncomfortable has not seen what they need to see yet. What they need to see yet. I don't think that being alone is a bad thing. I'm single and I like being alone. So, like, at this point of my life where I'm very attuned with myself, it takes a lot for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. You know, my space, my time is very important. So if I'm sharing it with you, that means something. If you're allowing me to share space and time with you, that means something to me. Okay? So, creating a sense of self within this alone time has been my biggest, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so happy that I get to do that. And I encourage a lot of people listening to take the time just to sit with yourself. That's not a bad thing. Date yourself first. Date yourself first. Find what you like. Find out what makes you tick. Find out what kind of boundaries you need to set. Moving on. So I think that covering a bunch of this already, it's been a really good conversation. The thing also with choosing yourself is that you have a lot of confidence. And confidence is one of these entities. It's one of these things where it's like, where do you find it? How do you create it? Where did you get that confidence from? First of all, I think confidence is just like any kind of emotion. Happy, sad, worried, stressed, they're all temporary. Okay? You can't be confident 24/7. There are times where I feel like shrinking and being hiding in a corner, and there are times where I want to be the center of attention and on top of the world. But that does not mean that I'm confident all the time. And that means that I'm not confident all the time. That means there are spaces for me to be humble, or to just sit back, or just to kind of observe, and that's what you need. Confidence is certainty, 100%. Confidence is certainty. You are certain who you are as a person. You are certain you are and who you are and what you're doing and what you want to do and your next move and the people you hang out with. You are certain on what you like and what you don't like. And a lot of people will dwell in situations that speak for them. Like, if they are very into the drama, or maybe they start the drama, or maybe they're the ones that are causing it, instigating it, you'll know that this person has a lot of insecurities because they don't have anything else to do except focus on other people's downfalls or people's drama. You know what I mean? I know that for sure. But I don't have time. I don't have the time to focus on other people's negativity or other people's drama. I don't want to do that. Why would I want to put myself in a situation where it's really uncomfortable for me? Right? It's just me. I'm very chill. Don't get me wrong. Hearing the drama is one thing, but being in it, no. I'm tag me out. I'm not gonna be there. So, yeah, through it all, choosing yourself means isolating yourself, in my opinion. Isolating yourself. What's wrong with that? Really, what's wrong with that? Really? What's wrong with sitting with yourself? You want to bring up your emotions or dark times of your life, you have to, friend. Here's me. All of everything that I say is my opinion, but like, here's me telling you that when you get to sit with yourself and admit things to yourself that you haven't before, or maybe you've never said it out loud, when you get the chance to do that, your whole world will change. You will get to see a much more clearer version and vision for yourself. That takes a lot of courage. 100%. It takes a lot of courage to sit with yourself, admit these things, and try to change these things because you're done. You're done with your old self. Take that time. It's so peaceful. No one else is in your ear. No one else can influence you. No one else should be influencing you in that way. You just get to see a different you that you've never seen before. So I encourage anyone just to take that space, solitude. Check out, and then check in with yourself, because that's the source right there. That's the number one source, right? And with that in mind, we're talking about being honest with ourselves. We're talking about being open with ourselves. I also saw this video about speaking down and opening your throat chakra. Your throat chakra is how you communicate your words, your meaning, and if it's blocked and you feel uncomfortable, that means that you have to seek the truth a little bit more. So speaking down does not mean speaking down to people like, oh, I'm better than you. It means using the tone, the volume of your voice to seek the honest truth. For example, when we work in like customer service, we always have that voice, and you know what I'm talking about. Hey guys, what can I get for you today? How can I help you today? That voice is going to be there as a representative in that position. But if you're doing that in your real life, in real time, and you have issues with speaking, telling the truth with yourself, or like speaking of what makes you feel uncomfortable, you're blocked. Okay, so how can we be perfectly in sync and attuned if we're not honest with ourselves? If we do not say, yeah, we're fucked, we're fucked up in this way, and you admit it and you move forward with it, how can we adjust accordingly if we can't even admit it? If we're trying to suppress it, if we're trying to hide it, there's no point. Just say it. Just say these things. And this, again, easier said than actually done. And it takes so much practice and humility to I want to say, break yourself down in order to build yourself back up better. That takes a lot of courage. Okay, that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. It's not going to feel comfortable. God, it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world to tear yourself down, because you've been hiding it for so long, because you've been suppressing it for so long, because you don't want other people to think this of you. Well, here's the thing with choosing yourself, and here's the thing about confidence, is that you're the one who gets to see who you really are. And other people's opinions of that does not matter. Other people's 2 cents on who you are does not matter. And if that bugs you on however they think, they're not really your friends. They're not meant to be in your life. And you can cut them out. You're allowed to, because you're choosing yourself. I feel like a lot of people have issues understanding that they are the most powerful entities in their life. You are the most, you listening to this right now, are the most powerful entity in your life. You get to adjust everything, like lower the volume, increase the volume, make this brighter, make this darker. Like, you are in charge of this entire picture. But it's hard for you to come back to yourself? Are you kidding me? Oteke, how? So, again, like, it I don't know. It's just me having to learn this. It's been a good couple years of having to practice these things and coming back to, and I wouldn't say these things without having to put them into practice, guys. Like, I trust me, I'm doing these things. It can be difficult sometimes, and it can be very like challenging, and sometimes I think too much. I'm always thinking, I'm always in my head, I'm always out here. But at the end of the day, you go to bed with yourself, you sit with your own emotions, or maybe you don't, but it's your responsibility to work through these things, and no one else is going to uh, matter at that point. No one else's 2 cents should matter. If you are very attuned with the dark and the light sides of yourself, you get to choose. You get to choose. Okay, you're in control. Always in control. You just don't want to take that first step in healing. All right. Okay. I'm I don't want to sound what is that called? People who force things down your throat. I don't want to sound like that. It's just helped me a lot. It's just giving me a lot of clarity, and I hope it helps you as well. Um yeah, man. 2023 is doing really well for me. I'm very excited, and I hope you guys are excited too. It's going to be such a I think it's going to be a really proactive year. I think it's going to be a really proactive year. Um all around, the lessons that I've learned, everything I take everything I need to take responsibility for, all the events I get to see, all the places I get to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. Um if you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube and also check me out on Spotify. Hit that notification for when new podcast episodes come on. Of course, if you follow me on Instagram, it's going to be all over my page. Thank you so much for listening to this. I hoped it helped you a little bit. I hoped you liked it. If you did, come back for more. I will see you in the next episode. I love you all. Take care. Stay well. Mwah.